It's the end of the day and you're completely wiped out. You lay down to go to bed, but the thing you want most, that blessed sleep, is the thing that's hardest to get. You lie there awake, or maybe you fall asleep, but then you wake up again and can't fall back asleep. They call it being wired and tired, but for moms, well, we call it misery. Because when you're so tired, sleep, the thing you need the most, is what's hardest to get. And then the next day, 4 o'clock rolls around and you're going through the to-do list, taking care of all the kids, running the carpools, and suddenly one of your kids starts picking on the other one. Nothing serious, just everyday stuff, but for some reason, it is just making every muscle in your body tense up, and it's starting to really get on your nerves. I went through that for so long. I would just sit there and think, why do I get so upset about this? It's not such a big deal. I should be able to be a more patient mom. Today, I'm going to show you why that actually happens and why it has absolutely nothing to do with how patient you are or how much you love your kids. For years, I went through the cycle myself. I would set new goals. I'm going to be so patient today, best mom ever. And then 3 o'clock rolls around and oh my goodness, would you guys just be quiet? It was like all the noise was amped up times 100, and what should have been a small bother became a massive overwhelm. I started to wonder if something was wrong with me. I thought maybe I just have sensory overload. Maybe I just don't deal with sensory stimulus like other people. Maybe I'm just super sensitive. I couldn't figure out why it bothered me so much when there was noise or a lot of kids asking questions and everybody wanted a piece of me. And the hardest part about that was when I would raise my voice or get upset at my kids, and I knew my kids didn't really do anything wrong. And then I spent the rest of the day feeling like a terrible mom for losing my cool and resolving that I wasn't going to do it anymore until the same time tomorrow. But what I want to share with you today is what changed everything for me. It completely changed the way I see how I interact with my kids, and it also opened the door for me to stop that cycle. Fast forward to this weekend, and I was in the same situation once again. My kids were at each other just a little bit. Nothing bad, but just really having fun. There was no harm, no foul, except for my nervous system started to put up the red alert sign. I felt the muscles in my shoulders tense up. My heart was beating a little faster. And I could feel it coming on that either I was going to tell my kids to knock it off, or I was gonna head off to my bedroom where I could get some peace and quiet. It was the classic fight or flight, only this time was different because of a tool I was able to use. And that's exactly what I wanna share with you today because it was a game changer for me, and I think it might be one for you too. So we had just come home from a dance competition, and if you've been there, you know there's so many emotions. Did you win? Did you lose? Did you nail it? Did you bomb it? It's a lot, especially for a teenage girl. Well, my daughter was going through the same thing, but I had pushed that off. That was a few days ago. I had moved on in life. Well, fast forward to this conversation. She's with her siblings, and pretty soon there's a minor disagreement. Not a big deal at all, but suddenly she's acting really defensive. And before I know it, there's contention in our home. Now, contention for me, it's no bueno. I really don't like it. It is something that really triggers my nervous system to go into dysregulation. And so my initial response was to do what made sense, and that was the fight response. In other words, to tell them to stop. You guys, I don't like the contention. But what came next is what changed everything. And that's when I remembered this tool that I had just been preparing to teach in the circle. And that is to stand back and notice what is actually happening in the situation. So in that moment, I stood back and I used that mother's intuition and I asked myself, okay, what is this actually about? What is actually happening? And I realized in that moment that it had nothing to do with what my kids were bantering about and everything to do with what my daughter was feeling. Once I did that, I was able to come down from that fight-flight response. I was able to shoo the boys out of the kitchen, sit down at the table with my daughter, and ask her one simple thing. I said, "The dance competition didn't turn out quite like you hoped, did it?" That's all it took. The tears came, the emotion drained, and suddenly we knew what was actually causing the problem. It wasn't what the kids thought they were arguing about. It was the emotions inside. And just like that obnoxious zit that keeps popping up over and over in the same spot, the emotions keep causing problems. They keep causing contention over and over again until we address them. The contention in my kitchen that day didn't dissolve because I managed it or because I used the right parenting techniques. It dissolved because I found what was underneath it. Most moms try to fix problems like this with mindset or better parenting tools. If I just try harder, if I'm just more patient, if I'm just more consistent, the problems will go away. The problem is your brain already knows that and it's not happening. Regardless of what your brain knows, your body's calling the shots. And the reason your brain keeps beating you up and saying you should be able to handle this is because the things that are triggering you are little things. It's like carrying a 1-pound weight at the gym. It's no big deal until you're carrying 50 of those 1-pound weights every second of every day. That's when it gets really heavy. That's when it gets really overwhelming. And that is when you become less than pleasant because what you're being asked to carry is more than anyone is meant to carry alone. So when that little trigger happens and you get upset, it's not because something's wrong with you. It's just physics. Can I ask you something? Is there a moment in your day where you react to something, maybe the same thing day after day, and it's not a big deal, and yet you react anyway? And then you end up feeling like a bad mom. Yeah. Well, it's not a character flaw. It's simply because your nervous system has been carrying too much for too long, and nobody told you that, so you blamed yourself. Cortisol, your stress hormone, is supposed to start low in the morning. And then as you wake up and get going, it peaks around 8 or 9 a.m. and then it tapers off throughout the day. That way, by the time you get to bedtime, you're ready to sleep. But in a world where you're constantly stressed and you're constantly on call and your kids need you all the time and you're trying to show up in the best way you know how, what happens is when you wake up, your cortisol levels are already high. You're already thinking about all the things that need done, and then that stress level doesn't decrease throughout the day. It just kind of stays high. And by the time that it's time to go to bed, it's still high, which is why you experience that wired but tired sensation of not being able to actually relax enough to sleep well. When summer comes and the kids are home, it's even worse because there's no outside regulation. There's no breaks in the day, time alone to recharge, so that cortisol level just keeps going and going. So here's what I want you to do this week, just one thing. The next time you have that trigger, that little thing that is causing a reaction that you know is bigger than maybe makes sense, you notice your shoulders tighten, your heart's beating faster, maybe you're breathing a little more shallowly. I want you to just take a break, pause for 2 seconds, and ask yourself, what is really happening here? Not what do you actually see, what are the symptoms, but what is below the surface. Maybe you're hungry because you forgot to eat lunch. Maybe you're tired because it's 3 o'clock and you've been up since 3 a.m. Or maybe you're just worried about all the things on your schedule the rest of the day and you wish you just had a moment to yourself. Once you name it, it empowers you to tame it. It allows you to take a step back and to see it with your logical brain instead of just that biological trigger that is your body reacting to how it's feeling. One pause, one question, that's all you've got to do. Now here's what I want you to hear. Sometimes you're going to try that pause and you're going to ask, what is really happening here? And the answer is just going to come. And that awareness will change everything for you. But other times you're either going to forget the pause because you'll already be in full response, or you will pause and ask, but you won't be sure what is really below the surface. Knowledge is one thing, and you can find all the knowledge in the world, but actually applying it and knowing what's below the surface is a completely new level. And that's what we go into in the inner strength circle, because the pause and the awareness is the start, but it's not where it ends. Having the knowledge and awareness is powerful, but applying it consistently in your life is where the real changes happen. So if you'd like to go deeper than the pause, to not just know the information, but have it show up consistently in your life and apply it to your real situation and your real kids, then I will drop the link for the circle in the description. That's where we take knowledge and we turn it into real life. This month, we're actually talking all about biology, your cortisol rhythm, and how to make sure this summer is a place where both you and your kids can have your nervous systems in a place of peace. So if you want to join us there, the join link is in the description. I would love to see you there. And if this video resonated with you, my next video is going to talk about why telling your kids to get off screens never works. Not because they're not listening to you, but because of what screens do to a system that is already dysregulated. It's going to completely change the battle this summer. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss that video next.